Go. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Design Recharge. I'm your host, Diane Gibbs, and this is, I think, episode 200 and, let me check to make sure, 248. 248. So lots of episodes, but I'm so excited. I got to meet Lisa last year at Weapons of Mass Creation, which is in Cleveland, and she's from Cleveland. And then she's so nice. She was like, I was like, we should eat lunch or dinner or something. And so she's like, well, come on. Me and my friends are going to eat lunch. And she just invited me and I went along and it was terrific. And she's so nice. And so we're talking a little bit about that today and how being nice and just being really good at your craft. I mean, I really didn't know how you were doing everything you were doing because you were working full-time job at an agency in Cleveland. And you'd done that for years working full-time, which we're going to get into in a second. But then you were just like killing it. I mean, I don't know how you planned a wedding and got married, and then you still were doing so much work. I just didn't really know. So tell us, Lisa, so I'm so glad to have you, first of all. So
happy to be here.
Some of you may know her from her maiden name, which is Lorick, but now she changed. She's full Lisa Quine all the way. And you started full-time freelance back in November?
Yes.
Okay.
Good memory.
So tell them a little bit of your backstory, what you went to school for, when you started lettering, and then how did you use your lettering in your old day job?
Gotcha. I will try to speed through all of that. High school is where I started drawing words. I had no idea it was called even typography, let alone lettering. I would just, try to stay awake in class, but I would have songs stuck in my head. So all I did was doodle lyrics, and all my history notes, math, well, not math. I was actually interested in math, but history, what other science, all filled with lyrics. And so when college came around, I was like, okay, I want to do graphic design. So I studied that. And I didn't really letter as much because we were busy doing foundation classes and all that. And I was trying to learn Illustrator, Photoshop, which is a beast. But after that, I got a job in advertising right away. And I would go do the 9-to-5 thing during the day. But when I come home, I was kind of lost. I felt the need to keep creating. And so that's when I picked up lettering again. And I would letter lyrics again, because I moved back home with my parents after college. And I think being in that atmosphere where I used to hand letter lyrics, it reminded me let me go back and explore this. But then knowing, after taking a couple typography classes, I think I felt a little better. I was still pretty terrible. This was 2012. But I kept lettering lyrics. I would then post them on Instagram because after college, I got an iPhone. And then I found #lettering, and that led me to follow Gemma O'Brien, and Roxy Primo was one of the early ones too. And I just found all these people who were mastering lettering. I'm like, ooh, that's what I want to do. But in advertising, I didn't letter a whole lot, but some of my coworkers saw that and they would hire me to do baby shower, wedding gifts and stuff like that. One art director did find my lettering, and he did hire me on to do some headlines in a whole campaign. So that was super fun. But the whole, that company had a very clean, Helvetica, Bajas kind of style. So it didn't really fit. And I didn't really mind because it felt like lettering was my little thing outside of work. I didn't want those worlds to collide too much. Mm-hmm. But I started getting bigger and bigger projects, and it became difficult to juggle. I didn't know if I wanted to be on the path to become a creative director eventually, or be on the path to hand letter full time. And I chose the later, but and I think it's because it's so much fun, and I was having more success lettering than I was in advertising, and it was a little less hectic, and I could be my own boss. There were just so many more positives to lettering rather than advertising. But it was hard. I mean, eventually I did make the leap. and, you know, I had a wedding after that, but I waited till had some money saved up, had health insurance through my husband, and then like there was a whole safety net built so I could make the leap.
So then I want to show some people. I didn't go back super, super far, but I went back far enough maybe. So I'm going to share my screen. Well, it really isn't that. There's a couple global prairie things in there, but just to kind of see. So you have a huge range of styles. I don't think that you don't fit into one box, which I love. But you have, you've done on all different kinds of materials, right?
Oh, yes.
You do illustration on there, but how did you, like in the beginning, were you looking at finding letters or typography somewhere, like even in high school? Was there something you're looking at?
That, I mean, in high school, not so much. Like I had no idea where to look for, like even looking up typography books, like that was just out of sight, out of mind. But what you're looking at in here, luckily in college, that was just a wealth of knowledge. And I started using Behance and Dribble. What are some other ones? Abdu-Zidu, like that design blog too. But mainly it was Instagram and Pinterest too, because it was very easy to just type in lettering and get a whole network of things. And Behance and Dribble tend to be more niche and for designers specifically, whereas Instagram and Pinterest is really anybody. So I like to go on, grab a couple images, like maybe 10 max, put them all up on my screen, and then take little bits and pieces and then put my own twist on it too. And I don't like being boxed in. I think that's why I originally went into advertising, because I didn't want to like just be a web designer, just be a print designer. It's a little bit of everything. And I think that you can see that in my lettering too. Like I have a crazy mind. I need to jump and try new things and stuff.
I love this, like the thuggish, ruggish. I think it's so different. I love it. Do you not like that one?
It's so old. I'm like, oh, I would do that differently. And I would be
so there's some things that I think you do. You do have some letters that you use stippling a lot of times. You do use some, I mean, this one has like the kind of block caps. And then it also has the, script. It's like I don't have my words today. But I mean, there's so much, and it really does. It gives so much for you to I love the Columbus one too. I think that one's awesome.
It took forever.
Oh, I bet. I can only imagine that would be. But I think that it's nice that you have that range, and you really give a lot, or are able to offer a lot to clients. So when you first, I just kind of want to keep scrolling so people can kind of see. So this is kind of maybe when you were doing more stuff for people who were getting, I mean, because I don't know when this was. I guess we can look.
That's my first weapon. Oh, well, that's my brother.
So 2015.
Yes. Oh my God. It was 3 years ago. That's so crazy.
I know. That's awesome though. And then, but I mean, you get the stippling is just incredible. And you do a lot of, really, it's not just the letters. You're illustrating all around, and sometimes more than others. Love this one too.
I definitely have to carve out maybe 2 days if I'm going to stipple or do high detailed illustration like that. But those are my favorite projects for sure. The more detail, the better.
It's also, you have this really great kind of way to compose the piece. Even, I mean, this one is just amazingly composed, and you've put all that extra stuff in. And I love that clearly you didn't really like these, so you moved over and you kept going. And I love seeing that process, and I'm glad you share that stuff with people.
I should share it more. I think I've broken that habit, but I definitely need to get back to it. And I think a part of that reason is because the iPad, you don't really go through tracing paper and layers of that. It's just all right there on the screen. So I'm trying to do both, like stamp paper and maybe a little bit of the iPad too.
All right, so I just noticed we were getting tons of, Lenny's here. Lenny said hey, and Matt Dawson.
Oh my God.
All right, Josh, Ash, Daryl, everybody's in here. Thank you. Kim's here. All right, so Amy says this makes me want to go home and draw. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
So
that makes me so happy.
so was composing a big part, or was that something that happened? Because it seems like just getting the composition down is one battle,
Mm-hmm.
not just the lettering part.
Yes. I'm actually going to teach this in my workshop. And it's something that I learned in college, because if you look at my high school stuff, everything is spaced out so clunky. But now that I know what letting and tracking is, thank you, Typography 101, I know how to properly space things. But an easy cheat to that is just boxing out where you're going to put words, like best thing ever. Like that would be 3 large boxes. I'm trying to think of something more complicated. Just any sentence. Isn't that the hardest? Like getting content is the most difficult part of my process. Use your weapons. I'm looking behind you. If I was going to do that, maybe use your would be on the same line, and weapons would be huge, but like just drawing out the boxes first and then filling your words in. Like words like those are like tiny little boxes, but the big chunk of it, just huge square on the page.
Oh, and your dad's here too. He said,
"Hi
from Dad. Keep up the good work." That's
Hi,
sweet.
Dad.
Hey, my dad doesn't even pop in. All right, so let's get into some of these questions, because one of the things that I love is that you are so nice. So I want to know how you, I was telling Kim this morning, I was like, I just really want her to answer this question. Like if I get this question answer, I'll feel really good about the interview. Is that how do you start those relationships? Because I feel like a lot of people are in, maybe they have a talent, right? Or it's something that they're growing, but they don't know how to start or how to ask a business. Because you've done a lot of chalkboard stands, sandwich boards, you've done big murals. I mean, how do you start those conversations? And do those people already know what stuff costs? Or are they like, well, can you do this for $50? And you're like,
oh God,
how many letters do you want me to do?
There's so much to everything you're asking. Yes, I get a lot of those, like, hey, I don't have any money, but can you do this? Like, can you take a charity project? And I would love to. Like, my main goal is to, do one freebie maybe every 3 months, just to like feel like I'm giving back or doing something. But no. So how do I build relationships, or like even start to do that?
Yeah. So like if you were going, what was one of your first clients in Cleveland, and how did you go about getting, because this would be in the beginning, like was that 2015, you were just doing these things for friends? And then how did you get to do a wall or a window? Like how does it, and just so you know, your mom said, hey, your mom's here too. So everybody's here. So we love both your parents. So we're glad.
So yes, a lot of people have been asking actually how to get a mural project. And the way I did that was there's public chalkboards in Cleveland, and I didn't have any mural experience. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do a passion mural. No one commissioned it. I was just like, I need to put out the work that I want to get from other clients. So I started I kind of took ownership of this one section of the chalkboard, and I would change it out every month. And sometimes I would ask friends to collaborate with me. Unfortunately, I live in Cleveland, so I could do it only like a couple months out of the year where it's nice weather, because it was an outdoor chalkboard. But that kind of helped kickstart that. They're like, okay, she can do large scale stuff. Also,
so you kind of had to prove it. You had to prove that you could do this first. Okay.
Because otherwise, how do you gain client trust?
Exactly. Right. And do you ever go to some place and you can tell a professional did not do their whatever, right? And you're like, hey, I could do this and it could look a lot better. Or I don't know how to have those conversations and still be nice,
Right. And it is a little bit of like, well, show me you can do it. But how I got my first mural project, which was a 4-wall lobby in a company office. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, this is a big first step. But it was actually someone I used to work with at my first agency. Her girlfriend worked at the company Find a Way, and she was like, you know what, Lisa does a little bit of lettering. She could do a mural. Like, probably had no idea what if I could or not, but she just kind of threw my name in the pot. So they were asking around different artists, and they're like, draw a hand lettered thing and an illustration of an ice cream truck. So I gave them a quote and an ice cream truck, and they're like, we like your style of illustration. Like, go at it. There's 100 more things to add to the lobby walls.
Whoa.
I had no idea what I was doing, and I didn't project anything. I was just kind of like freehanding it all, but learned a lot. My like mantra is just say yes and then figure it out. I think that's a lot of people's mantras, and it works.
Well, I think another thing you and I had talked about the other day, and maybe when we had lunch, is just your enthusiasm. So just going in and getting on board. I know I'm totally jumping around. I don't even know. I haven't even looked at my questions, but I think that that's something else as well. So like that lobby project, have you ever gone back to them? Have they ever done something else, or is that your work from a while ago still up?
So the lobby with the 4 walls, that's still up. A couple of months after I completed the lobby, they wanted to get the CEO of the company a birthday gift. So I did a little caricature of his face and some inside joke. They're huge on inside jokes. So I did that, sent it off, and then they're the ones actually shipping me to Philadelphia tomorrow for this conference to do a live mural.
Sounds like you're going in a box. They're shipping me. I got to get in the UPS truck right after this.
Pretty much. Here's a paint marker. Go at it.
All right. So so tell us, we're going to go back a little bit. So in November, you step out and you're like, okay, bye-bye advertising, because you were doing so much on the side. So
yes.
because you had saved up money, because I always feel like there are a lot of people who come and listen at live and who are on YouTube watching, they want to know, well, how much, like how much work do I need to have so that I can go out on my own? And it didn't last very long, right? Not that because you weren't awesome. It was because you were so awesome, somebody wanted you to come on part-time. So tell them a little bit about that.
Oh, yeah. So jumping back to September, that was when I got married and when I was faced with the decision, should I take this big leap or not? What happened was I had a project come through. A company wanted me to do a 6-wall mural. And I can physically not have a full-time job and do this by the timeline they want. And I quoted them a bunch of money, and I told myself if they said yes, then I would seriously consider going full-time freelance. But on top of that, I knew after reading a couple of audiobooks and starting your own business and stuff, Sean McCabe, he has a book called Overlap, and it's all about taking your passion project, going full-time freelance. And he said that you should have 3 months of living expenses saved up before you make the jump, because that way, if it fails right away, you have something to live off of. Or if you need to start looking for another job, you just have a chunk of change saved. I tried to get 6 months of savings just because I'm a super worrier. So I tried to save up as much as I could, while still dumping money into wedding planning. It was tough. And I was staying up late working on as many projects as I could outside of work. But so saving money and then having repeat income too. I was trying to set it up so I would have monthly payments by restaurants and monthly chalkboards and stuff. Just
kind of retainer, so that these people were going to hire you to come back in once a month and do some more work.
Right.
Okay.
And I think another audiobook said you should have 7 routes of income or something. It's a little excessive, but if you could do it, why not? So that's why I thought maybe I'll focus on murals, weddings, restaurants, branding. I try to come up with 7. And then, getting married helps with the healthcare. I learned. So that was, another thing people worry about. And I think there are routes to take if you can't get your spouse's healthcare and stuff. Yeah, that's kind of the method I took. And then, like you brought up, I accidentally got a part-time job because let's see,
It wasn't
November.
like at the grocery store down the street. It was, tell them where it is.
It's with American Greetings. And so November, I did a month of full-time freelance, and December. In December, late December, they approached me and said, hey, you know, we have a part-time position open. And I actually wanted to go part-time at the agency, but they were like full-time or nothing. So I left. And then part-time was like a dream because I could come in a couple days a week, have a steady paycheck, and like kind of be okay if the full-time freelance thing didn't work out. Like it felt like just the nicest safety net to have. But it was also with American Greetings where I could do hand lettering. There's a whole team of hand letters and like amazing illustrators, like world known. And like someone just did the Google header for MLK Day. You're famous. But
Yeah.
and it's nice too because they're actually teaching me how to hand letter, like a formal class, which I've never had and I probably need.
So, so you had I also feel like I feel like a lot of times full-time freelancers take on too much. That part-time job that you weren't looking for gives you a little bit of stability so that you don't take on more than you really can, even though I still think you probably take on a little bit more, right?
Yes.
Like,
oh my God. Yes. I agreed to do a mural due this Monday when I was already at max capacity, just figuring it out.
so when you're like quoting something for time, and they want something, if they want something on Monday, are you doing that in a day? Is it have color? Do you have one kind of bid that would do if you wanted to add color? I don't know if you're doing like 3-tier pricing, like if you this one, and this one. I mean, do you like the murals? Is that like your favorite of all of them, or are you glad you have other things?
I'm glad I have other things. I couldn't just do murals. I would go crazy because I mean, I like doing stuff tiny, but doing stuff big too is super fun. It's just a little hard on the back. With this one, it was for the Cleveland Fleet, the one due this Monday, and they've been a very helpful client. It's run by Stephanie. She was my business coach for like 2 phone calls. Loved her. And I knew she was someone with a vision. Like, I kind of know what kind of client she is. So I knew she likes to keep things simple, likes to do big blocks of color. I'm like, okay, it's going to be doable. And I know she's a reliable client. And she actually gets me other mural projects by throwing my name, like by referral. So I'm like, you know, she's a great client. I will do this for her.
So was this the one that was on the big pink building?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to try to show that.
Wall's pink too. She loves pink.
Okay, so let me share this real quick. So this, well, but that's not it. That might be the inside.
Oh, if you click that, I think there's a photo in that series.
Okay, yeah. So this is it's a pop-up store. It's not always this, or it is always there.
Sorry. So it used to be a thrift store that got shut down, and she rented it for a couple months, and it was for the Christmas season or holiday season. So they had a group of makers, creators. It was just like a flea market of Cleveland area entrepreneurs selling things that they've made. And yeah, it was just for like November and December.
So then had you worked on windows before?
Yes, but like maybe the size of what you're looking at now, just like
like the little one,
like a storefront window, not like a thrift store storefront window.
Right, because this is big. This is a big.
Oh my God.
So, all right. So this is. Is there some sort of learning curve? I don't know if you were able to project onto this or not.
I was not. I would have been able to like print out that to size and like, tape over the windows, but it seemed like too big of a hassle. I figured like, you know, if the C isn't the right curve, I could erase it because I had to use acrylic markers. Mm-hmm. This couldn't be permanent because she was renting. So this is all water-based markers, very easy to get off. And so I just kind of would do a letter, stand back, do another letter, stand back, make edits.
So you're doing this, so not from the inside backwards. You're doing it from the
Inside,
outside. Oh, you
inside.
are. You're doing it. Oh my goodness. So that also seems like a big challenge to me.
Yeah, I definitely had a misspelling in there a couple of times.
But just how the letters work, I mean, I guess you just switch it, but it seems like it would be a challenge because it's so big.
Yeah. But I mean, I had my iPhone. I would reverse the image so it would be backwards, and then just kind of went from there.
All right. So let me stop screen share real quick. All right. So let's talk about American Greetings just a little bit. So how flexible? So they wanted you part-time. You said, how about 2 days? And so how do you work those 2 days? What if you have to go out of town? Do you just scoop them up somewhere else?
They are so nice and flexible with the schedule. Like I only do a couple projects per month and stuff. Cause they're a greeting card company. They have like, okay, just do the lettering for the front and inside of this card. It's due in a week. It's kind of like easier to do. Some stuff is easy. Some stuff is a little more complicated, but they're very generous with the time. But I did tell them like I have a 6-month or a 6-wall mural to work on. So I can only do 2 days a week. If I go out of town, I could do like 3 days and then 1 day the following week and stuff like that. So it's just, and I've only been here since late January and 2 days a week. So now I think it's been actually a month time. So we're still figuring it out.
You're still in the honeymoon phase. So how many projects are they like, I need 50 cards by the end of the week? Or is it just lettering that you're doing, or are you doing the coloring in the computer? Or are you doing the coloring? Because that one that is like your, that what you did, I guess it was for them. Maybe it was, let's see if I can find it. The one about your husband, the son-in-law.
The son-in-law card.
Yes.
That was actually from last year. Yeah, it takes like a full year for a card to go through production and like actually be out in stores. But so yeah, they brought me on as a freelance designer. I did like 4 cards for them last year, and now they're trickling into Target and Walmart and stuff. But yeah, so their process, they have a team of planners, which are kind of like graphic designers who get together, a team, like 1 hand letter, 1 illustrator. Sometimes it's just an illustrator. Sometimes the planner can do all the design for the card. But yeah, I just have to send them a black and white file of the lettering. Like it could be Photoshop, it could be Illustrator. They're very flexible. They just need the lettering and they can piece it together.
So you aren't having to color things.
Right.
Okay. I mean, you might still do it just for fun, right? But a lot of this is just, I mean, I looked at something that you had done and I was like, oh my goodness, is she drawing like those little lines that are on the M and the A and the T, C, H?
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if she's using a ruler. They are really straight, but I don't know if you're using a ruler or not.
I'm not. You can tell, I think in the A, those get a little cockeyed.
But they're still straight. I guess it's not super long. I don't know. But anyway.
With hand lettering, you got to find that perfect balance where it looks hand done, but it doesn't look perfect.
Right. All right. So you did some pieces last year. So in a week or in a month, because you said they don't ask for too much, so you don't feel too stressed. But are you giving them multiple versions of, is it more art directed? Is it just one, like they said, hey, we need you to do a son-in-law birthday card or something, right?
Right. Yeah. It is usually just like one and done. Oh, bye, Lenny. Because I'm used to advertising where I have a creative director. They want to see multiple versions of everything. Everything has to be perfect. You can't send anything out without them seeing it first. Here, it's like, yeah, looks good. Like,
well, they are really good. Maybe everybody isn't like that, but with you, they're happy that with all your work.
Like it does go through a manager. It goes through a planner. Like you do have a lot of eyes on it, but people generally trust that you are doing your best. And like, you know, as long as you stick to kind of the mood board that they send out, because, you know, they're like, here's the text, here's the visual, like, that we're kind of going for.
Mm-hmm.
And usually it's from other cards or other artists in the department. So they try to keep everything as internal as they can, because they've hired a bunch of artists. Like,
Right.
why go use something else? So yeah, and that's
All right.
how that happens.
So then how many are you having to do you work on that ever, like at home, or is it only when you're at work?
I try. So American Greetings has become my like meditative space. I like go to work to remain calm and everything. But yeah, I usually can't work on it outside of work just because I have to catch up on my own projects.
Right.
But if something does need to spill over, which it hasn't yet, they're pretty flexible. Like, I can stay late, or I can work on something at home a little bit if need be.
So do they provide you your own iPad at work, or do you have an iPad that you bring in? I don't know. This is probably a stupid question.
It's not at all. Because normally, like with a company like this, they would give you an iPad and a pencil, especially because it's so much quicker to use. They don't here yet. I think they're trying to put, like, illustrators can request a Cintiq,
Mm-hmm.
but for right now, it's like, if you want to use it, you're gonna buy your own, and which is fine, because I bought my iPad before I even like came here, so I don't mind using it for no one.
Because it's just another tool. But the other tools, there are, I think when at Weapons, there was a tour. I know Lenny got to go on it, and they toured American Greetings, right?
Yes.
So do they provide a bunch of other utensils, I guess, for you to use?
They have everything else besides the most expensive pieces. But like every pen you can imagine, every, like, anything you can create artwork with, they have like their own art store. And they have their own Starbucks. They have their own greeting card store where you can get American greeting cards at discount. Like, it's amazing.
That's awesome. Okay, so when they give you kind of a direction, but you pretty much have complete creative freedom after you see what they're, just as long as you stick within their mood board. Mm-hmm. How do you kind of use that? I know you already did stuff like that because you'll have mood boards for clients. How do you kind of transition and talk about some of your freelance? How do you get, because I feel like you're working in Cleveland. You said a lot of your work is local. Mm-hmm. And you are busy, you're slam busy, right? So how do you, and a lot of people aren't, they don't know what this costs. They don't know what this is. So there's a lot of educating, which I think this is where being nice comes in. Because sometimes you can get, I think Jason was asking earlier, he's like, oh my gosh, I just want to ram them in the head with my fist when they ask me if they could do something for free. But I think people don't realize, and I think we start feeling guilty about I like to do this, and maybe when you work, it should be painful or something. So how does that, how do you use what are some tools you use with your clients, like in the beginning? Because some people, they know what they want, but they can't communicate it, right?
I'm just reading Jason's comment. So I try to get in the right mindset. I think I read this in an audiobook too, but the best projects will be because you're either fueled by something that you want to create or fueled by something that is a price that you appreciate. So those are always my two goals. When you have both of those, that is a sweet spot and the best project ever. But if people aren't willing to pay you what you're asking, then maybe you could go for having, like, kind of taking creative ownership over the project. Otherwise, you're not going to be happy and your client's not going to be happy, and it's not a good fit. So I try to hit either of those two things. But I think what you were getting at, being enthusiastic about the project also is super, super helpful. Like, acting like you want to work with the client, acting like you want to work on this project, like you are so amped about it, definitely helps. And that has helped me get return projects through my clients. Like, wrapping up this 6-wall mural, they gave me a 7th wall to do, and they gave me a postcard announcing their new name and location. and I'm doing another invitation for them. Like, they just keep giving me work. And I think it's because, like, you know, we'll meet in person, which is huge, and over coffee, and I'll be like, yeah, like, what's going on next? Like, oh, and actually helping them, you know, because that, you have to be good at what you're doing too.
Right. So they see the return on their investment. They also see that you're part of the team and you're part of the strategy. And I think that really does make a huge difference. Like, people feel like, oh man, Lisa's really, they feel like you are part of their team, even though you're freelancing, you know?
Yeah. And like, it's kind of addicting too. You know, when you're sick or sad, some like help me books say to smile and you'll feel a little bit better. Like, if you're in a sour mood, just by smiling, it could like boost those dopamine levels just like a little bit. I think that helps when you're meeting with clients too. Like, if it's just kind of standing your ground, like not letting the sourness be on your side of things. Like, it just always, it's putting on a face, but that's what gets you money and projects.
So sometimes it's just being enthusiastic about having a new project, and that you're being able to live the way you want to live, even though you're not maybe loving what you're writing or what you're lettering.
Yes.
Okay, I will, Carol. I'm up for it. All right. So your mom asked me to dinner. Next time I'm in Cleveland.
Oh, I saw a good question from Joe.
Okay, I didn't see it. So do you know what? Do you want me to?
It was something about how do you use projectors?
Okay, yeah.
I have yet to have a mural project where I actually can use a projector, just because they've been in like tight wall spaces and stuff. So I use the grid method, where I take a picture of my sketch on my iPad, and it's like I do a grid inch by inch, and then on the wall I do foot by foot and just go by square and match each square. But I tried to use a projector for this mural due on Monday, and the image was too small, like on the wall. She wanted it bigger, and I couldn't on the spot. Like, I should have brought my laptop, adjusted it in Photoshop. But if you, like, I asked Adam Vickerell what projector he uses. I asked Roxy and Phoebe what projector they use. And they gave me, like, you know, good ones to use on Amazon. It's a little expensive, but totally worth it. Like, I've been using a $50 projector, and it was totally pixelated. So I actually spent over $100 on my new one, and it is very crisp. So having the right.
So Kim actually uses a iPad Pro or iPad to project hers. So we'll have to get you guys connected. So,
Yes.
And she really got it from Dylan Minguez, who is also in Ohio, right? So I think the projector is really, really a good way to go, because then you still can adjust and do some things on the spot if somebody wants it a little bit bigger.
Definitely need
and
that.
you have an iPad, so you're ready to go. All you need is that little HDMI cable. Yeah, it's tiny. It's like $20.
I'm sure I have it somewhere in the apartment too. I'm not putting two and two together.
but I think that Joe, just so you know, we will make sure if you can tell me what your projector is, Lisa, then I will put it in the show notes, and we can. I'm going to write that down so that I can get that from you. All right. So one of the things with, you are in Cleveland, so maybe some people haven't ever been to Cleveland. Can you kind of give us an idea of how big Cleveland is? Because I think what I always like to do with Design Recharge, it's really about hope, right? You went from lettering in high school to now you're doing this full time. I mean, granted, you had a lot of time. You've really put a lot of hours into making this, doing really, really, really good work. But you give hope to a lot of people. But there's also, it's the business side of how do you actually get going, and how big is Cleveland that you can actually have enough work and you can have retainer clients. Can you tell us a little bit about the size?
Yeah. So I would compare it to Nashville. I'm trying to think of a city that a lot of people have been to or know about, but it's very much like, the size of it's kind of like Nashville, just a little smaller, but it is definitely a Midwest city with a small town mindset. I wish they would branch out a little bit, but Clevelanders are crazy. They are very loyal. We walk around with Cleveland all over our t-shirts and stuff. Like, we have so many Cleveland clothing stores here. It's insane. But it is also super helpful because if you know 5 people in Cleveland, you are 1 degree away from everybody here pretty much. And so that has been super helpful. Like, actually working at 2 different advertising agencies has got me so many connections just by having a job here and going out and doing work events and stuff. So
but it's not just that. It's that you had these side projects. It wasn't just that you were good at your job, which you are, but it was also that you were fun to work with, that you had a lot of energy. It was those other things. And I totally agree with you about you can actually do this with a pin that it says that will decrease serotonin levels if you're feeling down.
Oh my God.
Because it's a forced smile. So you can just stick a pin in it. Yep. Maybe not one that's $100. I'll get you one of these at Creative South. You can just stick that in your mouth. But you know what I mean? So it's a Midwest city, a city that's proud of its heritage and who they are. They're proud to see a ton of Cleveland stuff.
That's another thing. I've gotten projects where they're like, we wanted a Cleveland artist, which again, I mean, we do need to branch out if we do want to grow as a city. We can't just be like in a Cleveland bubble, but hey, I'm not complaining if it's getting me projects. And yeah, it's an artist.
That's right. So it's also there's a pretty good little art scene in Cleveland, right? So that's another kind of aspect. It's tapping into, if somebody wanted to do this in North Carolina, I know Jeremy's in Charlotte. It may not be as, I'm sorry, they're washing a screen over there. I'm going to turn my mic a little bit this way. Maybe you don't hear it or won't hear it. But you know, it's tapping into some of that art scene to see if those people it's meeting people, right? It's meeting people who know people who might need something, right? It's
right.
That whole networking, because you were saying it was when I'd go to after work events or something with the advertising agency, right?
Yes. But another part of it is too, like, just reaching out to other artists in different cities and being as transparent as you can. Like, I hop on a girl boss call every Monday with Roxy and Phoebe in San Diego and Emily in Sacramento, Little Patterns in Chicago, and then Eden Bates in Austin, I believe. So we've got all corners of the map covered, and we talk about pricing. We talk about licensing. Like, I have upped my prices so much just by these phone calls with girls my age doing the same thing. And we all just kind of help each other out. You know, if someone's having a bad client experience, you know, we all talk about it and help each other out. It is just so important to kind of like find a group of people that you trust and can open up to about.
That's not necessarily just in your local area, right? Somebody who you have a little bit more perspective on what's happening outside. I think that's really critical to the growth.
If you live in Chicago and San Diego, like, living expenses there are crazy. So they have to up their prices. So sometimes I feel like I'm not charging enough, but then again, like, I'm living in Cleveland and like stuff isn't as comparable. Same thing with clients. Like, if you get a national client, then yeah, you could charge licensing fees and all that. But if you're doing a mom and pop shop, like, we discuss how to handle that too, you know?
So how did you get connected with those girls?
They have their own podcast called Drunk on Butter.
Yep. But did you know them had you ever met them, or did you just follow them online and they just you started the conversation and then y'all?
Yeah. So I, like most people, if I'm not seeing them at conferences like Weapons and Creative South, I'm finding them online and totally being a fangirl, reaching out, because they're just people. I think once you break down the barrier of like, and tell yourself they're just humans too, then everyone seems much more approachable. So yeah, I would comment on every single post, and I think that's when they're like, okay, this is the only person listening to our podcast, so we'll bring her on. And I got to be on twice. So that was super exciting. And I actually got to meet him in person when I was in San Diego, so that was fun too.
That is cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. So again, like if you see someone on Instagram, like reach out to them in a heartbeat, you know, that it never gets old hearing that, like, hey, I like your work, like, and answering questions, like artists want to help, you know.
So Jeremy kind of has a question about networking. He's like, oh, you
Yeah.
go to these events and you feel like all you have to do is say, hey, here's my business card, here's what I do. So it's very kind of quick. How do you make more, because I think this is one of your superpowers, you make things more meaningful, and it's not just a one-time event. It's just like you were with Phoebe and them. It was this consistent, you were consistently following them, commenting, you were there. And so how do you get that in a either in-person setting or online? I mean, online you kind of explained, but in person.
Yeah, you just being a listener. Like growing up, I always begged my babysitters to tell me stories. Like I've been a listener for life, and people have, like, every single person has so many stories. So, you know, all you have to do is go up to someone and be like, where are you from? What do you do? What do you like to do? What do you want to do? And like, what tools do you use? What are your strengths and weaknesses? Like, just fire off as many questions as you can.
My husband says, he's like, Diane, are you an interrogator? It's like you just need a light and like a small room and a pair of handcuffs. Like, give them a break. But I think that people usually are excited to share, to talk about who they are.
Like, it is a win-win for everyone. You ask someone what they like doing, and that's going to put them in a better mood. That's going to get them out of their bubble and start chit-chatting. Oh my God. On the way to work today, I was listening to NPR, and they were talking about how on commutes, they made a group of people, like they were testing people on trains on commutes, and they're like, okay, this group, don't talk to anyone. This group, break out of your shell and start talking to the people on the train. And they said, like nearly 100% of the time, people will respond back to, you know, you talking to them on the commute. And it raised their happiness level. Like, people just want human interaction. And, you know, going to these conferences, it's intimidating. My first one, I didn't want to talk to anybody. I actually recognize a girl from Instagram, and, you know, we get coffee every Saturday now. So just like, I don't know, it just breaking out of your comfort zone and just striking up conversations will actually get you places. Like, not a lot of the times it will be a negative thing for you. So it's usually a positive one. Go out and do it.
So I think you probably do this. I haven't seen you do this, but I can imagine, because I've eaten with you and hung out with you a little bit, that you would be happy to give some advice if somebody was talking. If you were in an after work kind of party, or whatever you call those things, but not really a party. I don't know, whatever. So you're there and they start talking to you about because you're asking them questions. Oh, what do you do? Well, they say they run their own business, and they say they have a hotel, or they have a restaurant. And you're like, oh, cool. What kind of, and you're not asking to get work, but you're asking, you know, you see where you could help them if they don't have somebody already. And because it's that awkward, like, hey, I think we could date, you know, kind of a thing, right?
Right. That's a great question, and something I'm still terrible at, because, you know, I'm usually out to dinner with my husband, Mark, and he's the one saying, oh, you should check out her Instagram, because I will stay quiet. And, you know, when we leave a place, he's like, you should leave something behind. Like, you have to push yourself and market yourself. So this is something I'm terrible at doing too. But like you said, just a very subtle plug. It's not like, hey, I think like your company should really work with me. Like, don't be too aggressive, but like, hey, this is my work. Would love, you know, I'm a fan of what you do. I think we could collab or something.
And sometimes it's like, oh, well, have you thought about maybe doing if they're a restaurant, like, have you thought about painting your bathroom stalls, or doing something different, like something that would just be so and it doesn't mean that you have to do it or draw on it, but it just is giving them an idea of ways to make. I mean, I think when we start talking to people and they're like, well, I don't really know anything about social media, I'm like, well, have you thought about this, or could you try this, or, you know, there's all kinds of things that you and I both do as designers that isn't necessarily you coming in and doing a mural, but it could be something else. It's just having that kind of entrepreneurial mindset, which I know you have because you are able to get so much work and get so much stuff done. So I think that's incredible.
Thank you.
All right. So,
Well said.
so do you have any tips about getting maybe in the door? So are all your things from connections, like somebody knows somebody and then it's this? So it's like the person you met at that party wasn't necessarily the person with the restaurant mural or with the wall, but they know what you do. So it's not that you're saying, hey, I want to do this work for you. You're just saying, hey, I did this work. And you're also enthusiastic about the work you do, right? And Mark's really enthusiastic about the work you do.
I think Aaron Draplin has some good advice on this. It's like, the same, oh God, I'm going to butcher this quote, but it's like, the same work you do for a friend is the same work you do for a client, always bring your A game and stuff. But a lot of it too is, putting out the work that you want to do. And, just like, I got my start because I was doing nothing but passion projects. This was all outside of work, and that attracted people and eventually clients. So just starting with what you actually want to do will lead you to the projects that you want to do.
But it's also consistently putting it out. It's not just once a month, right? I mean, you really are driven, and you've gotten your learning curve, like you're always doing something new, it seems like, right? You're pushing yourself.
Right. So, you know what? Yeah, for me, it was Instagram. It sounds dumb out loud, but I almost majored in math, and I love numbers, and I love video games like Tetris, like always beating your high score and stuff. That was like Instagram for me. I kept lettering and stuff, but the more I wanted more followers and more likes and just seeing measurable data. And I know it doesn't really correlate with, skill level, because some of my favorite people have 3,000 followers and stuff. So it doesn't really, I don't know. For me personally, though, I love trying to get more and more and more, and like seeing the stats and seeing what does well with the Instagram world and what doesn't, when to post, when not to. But something like you said that has always been consistent is consistency in your work.
So how often do you think you're posting?
I try to do it every day right now. Now that I've gone freelance, like there's a period of time where I'm just sending out estimates. There's a period of time where I can't share anything. So I try to recycle and post something that I did like a year ago. And it works with Instagram because 9 times out of 10, people don't scroll through everything. So They don't see a lot of good work that maybe you did a couple years ago. So I try to recycle some
That's a great idea.
Right?
Yeah. Especially if it's not within like a couple swipes, I'm not going that far, right?
Right. If you do 6 swipes, then, you can repost something from that window.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. So you also really put, like, I'm looking at 1 3-row thing right now. One is on the iPad. One is it looks like a pin. Maybe there's some pencil in there. It's like tropical kawaii.
Oh yeah, that was pen and paper. Yeah.
Okay, and that one is absolutely freaking awesome. And then there's you on your Christmas present with the things it's like a mural, things we should never know your, whatever that. I can't see the whole thing. So
shout out to Mom and Dad. Thank you for the Christmas
gift.
So
tell them about, so your sister gets something and then you open this, and tell them about your Christmas present and why this has really helped you.
Oh yeah. So it was actually kind of cool. We open gifts as a family every year, and my sister was getting like, a winter coat. My brother was getting clothes, and then I opened up scaffolding.
Right.
But like something that I definitely needed. It was very nice to not go up and down a ladder or step stool. I could just like work on more of a platform and not have to move the scaffolding as much and stuff. And you can adjust the levels. So I could do like the very top line and go down from there. It was very it saved a lot of time.
Were you really excited about getting that present?
Oh my God, yes. Best Christmas gift ever. I put my name on it right away, so no construction workers would steal it. Because they did borrow, and I had it adjusted by myself. I'm like, don't take my scaffolding. I started like locking it away.
I bet. Absolutely. All right. So we have like 5 minutes left, and we got through maybe 4 questions. So we'll have to do a part 2 after Creative South. Okay.
Yes. I'm done for that.
Okay. At first I thought you were like, I was like, oh no, have I? Anyway. Okay. It's just because I've been off because of the whole Siri thing earlier. All right. So when you're, I'm going to end kind of on the what's kind of next for you. And I know you're doing a workshop at Creative South. And just so you know, Courtney Smith, she's still here. She's your volunteer, and she's one of my kids. I mean, not physically birthed her, but she's exciting. She was a painting major anyway. And then she came to my school and did design. So she is really excited. She's going to take your lettering workshop, and she's your volunteer also. So if you need her to do something, you can do that. But so you have this coming up at Creative South. What else is coming up? Anything else we should be looking out for?
I sent out estimates for like 5 mural projects that are somehow due in the next 3 months. So just pushing out murals left and right. But tomorrow I'm going to Philadelphia with Find a Way, a longtime client, and they're having me do a live mural of people, or it's at a librarian conference or a library conference, which I didn't know that happened. So every librarian that comes to the booth, I'm supposed to draw a caricature of them. I don't draw people, so this will be very interesting. Like, I sent them a sample of like all their employees' kind of caricatures, and they're like, "Yep, this is exactly what we're looking for. So you're hired."
And that, again, something you didn't do, but you said yes to, and you got enthusiastic about it.
Because maybe I'll like it. Like, I don't know. I've never done it before. So what if I love doing this?
So one last question. What advice would you give your younger self, and what age do you think you would tell yourself that? Like, would it be at age 11? Would it be at 22?
I would probably tell my high school self to start listening to other music, because what I listened to was terrible. But no, I wouldn't do too much differently. Like, maybe with the dating life, I would go back and say, like, don't date that guy. But I've always had, we didn't talk about this. I've always had a good work ethic because I went to church a lot as a kid. I was being forced to, and it taught me how to be devout. I would go to church every Friday and Sunday, and it taught me how to be consistent and, get something out, like dealing with doing something not by choice, but going through with it and getting something out of it. Like, your time on earth is so minimal. Like, you better get something out of what you're doing.
Right, because me and you talked about that the other day, how just it was something that was consistent. You knew you had to do it. So, but you still maybe wouldn't be something you were really into. And I think this was the thing about getting on board with clients, right? You've got to find one thing that you like, or one thing that you really could back, or even as you were going to church, not that that's a bad thing, but it just might not have been what you wanted to do or how you wanted to spend your time, right?
It's not for everybody. Right. Especially not like, 10, 11-year-olds who have all this energy and they're like, just sit here, be quiet, kneel, stand, say this. It's hard as a kid.
So it kind of broke you, but then it also, you understood how to not be broken by it, but actually use it to your advantage, because you still do that. I think there might be clients that, I know Amy and Jen Hood, they talk about, they had a mop project, was one of their first clients. And they were like, it's going to be the best mop catalog you've ever seen. And I know that was, but it's about kind of getting on board and being like, they will never want to go anywhere else because they're going to love this mop catalog and it's going to elevate them. Right. But
that's a fantastic attitude.
Yeah. But that's you have that same attitude. I feel like, and maybe it is because but I also think you also spend time, you take enough time for you to keep doing passion projects and keep fueling. Because I think sometimes people get too much client stuff and then they've kind of lost their enthusiasm maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. There's definitely moments where I put away the phone, I sit on the couch, watch Netflix with Mark. Like, we definitely need, one screen at a time. I hate that it's gotten to that point, but yeah, it's like, okay, we'll be on our phones now, put that away onto the TV.
Right.
Yeah,
I think, yeah, I think having something like that, and also I think you're always growing. I think that's another tip people can take from you, is that just do it even when you don't feel like it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then keep growing, keep pushing yourself, and say yes, because that was the other thing you said, because it's like, hey, Lisa doesn't know how to do this either, but we can figure it out, right? Somebody's done this. They're not Einstein, right? Not that you're not smart, because you're super smart, but and I feel like sometimes I'm not always the smartest bulb, but I feel like if they can do it, if Joni can do it, then I can do it,
100%. Like, when I was first starting, I saw all these amazing artists on Instagram, and then it finally clicked, like, just dismantling their artwork, seeing how, because it's not just like boom detail. It's like, okay, first you started with the sketch, then once you get a good sketch, you move on to inking, and then maybe you add detail on top of that. Like, 100%.
All right. So we've got about 6 more questions to do in our part 2.
We can do rapid fire.
I know. I love Scotty's rapid fire. He's really, really good. So do you know, so at what age, you said you would listen to better music and tell yourself, so you just listen to bad music? But clearly you liked the lyrics. Maybe you were listening to them for the lyrics.
Oh God, we can just skip to the next question. Yeah, I listen to horrible music.
All right. I want people to know.
Yes.
I want people to know how to follow you, so they can always check out your work. Do you think you get a lot of work from places like Dribble, or do you think you get more work from people like Instagram, or do you think it's just people have shared your stuff? Because a lot of the work is local.
It's usually people like either finding me on Instagram or their buddies like, hey, you should see this Instagram. But like having somewhere where your work is, and I have a website, but people are just used to Instagram. There's familiarity there. So I think seeing it on something that they use every day, like, that is the hook, line, and sinker.
So do you track your Instagram? Like, do you see how many people went? Do you look at that? I mean, because you're a numbers person. So is that something you do like at the end of every week? Do you kind of analyze the post or?
Okay. Here, if you switch your Instagram account to business, you get all these wonderful numbers.
I know it is really good numbers.
Like what posts are doing well, what parts of the country. Sorry, can you even see that? Well, I suggest getting a business Instagram account so you can. And
it's really easy. It's just a quick switch, right?
It's so quick. It's all you have to do is set up a Facebook account for your business. Mine is just Lisa Quine. I have nothing posted on that Facebook page, but it's so interesting. Like 34% of my followers are men and 66% are women. I'm like,
I look at mine too. Mine are like 50-50 or a little bit more men than women.
Oh my God.
I know, isn't that funny? I know. Yeah. I think that stuff is neat too. I think that's a whole nother workshop. I think at Creative South sometime should happen, because I think it's about knowing how to. I mean, you have 21.2, and I've finally reached the 2,000. Woo woo!
We're gonna get that number up.
But I think it's knowing what to do to get that, and I think that's where a lot of people are. And I think some of it's just about exposure. Now they change the algorithms all the time. It's kind of that whole other ball game. But if you're not playing in that field, then you'll never maybe get where you want to go. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Like, you can make a beautiful website with your work on it and stuff, but if you're not on social media where everybody else is, no one's going to see it.
Yeah. Well, and kind of being able to analyze your work or somebody else's work and seeing why it's doing well, and then how you can adjust, I guess. Because the one thing I notice that I love is that you have great set shots, but then it's not just set shot, set shot, set shot. You actually show your face a lot. When I look at the year end, it's always the posts with a face that do better than like a illustration piece or something, which I just think is so funny. I don't know if you get that same, like the you on the scaffolding gets a higher like than just the work.
Work in progress tends to be more likes than the actual finished piece, but that's just the way it is.
I think I guess people just like to see that human touch, and your work is amazing. I mean, you have down to a T how to get the life in it. So
sorry, I'm looking at Jason's comment.
Jason said, total opposite when you're a bearded metal dude. People are like, yeah, just your lettering, weirdo. Oh, whatever, Jason, I love you.
Yeah,
right. I can't anymore. I could have just picked it off the floor, I guess. All right, so let me share. So it's Lisa, Quine.com. And then if anybody's on, right, what? Rhymes with wine.
Quine rhymes with wine. Okay.
And then also on Instagram, it's Lisa_Quine, Quine again, just for anybody who's on iTunes and they're not, they're listening, not seeing me in the chat, typing it in.
And email me with questions. I love answering questions. So if you want to chat more.
What's your email?
If you go to my Instagram, there's an email button.
Oh, okay, great. So we can email you straight from Instagram. Perfect. Yep. We'll do that. All right, Lisa, thank you so much for giving up so much of your time. I hope you have a safe travel tomorrow, driving to Philly. Yep. And I can't wait to see you in like 3 weeks at Creative South.
I can't wait to see you and everybody listening who's going to Creative South. It'll be so much fun.
I'm super excited too. All right. We will see you next week, whole March. We just didn't do a March design recharge on a Wednesday. So I'm just going ahead and just adopting that. It's March Madness. So this not Wednesday, we are going to have Lisa, another Lisa. This is the only non-Cleveland artist we're talking to this month as well. Maybe March is always Cleveland month. But we have Lisa Glanz back to do her part 2. She's going to do it on Monday. She's in South Africa, so we have a little time difference. So it's 10 a.m., I think. Is that right? 10 a.m. on Monday morning, Eastern time, 7 a.m. Pacific time. So catch us again on Monday, and then we're going to come back and we start, I believe, the following one. I don't know if it's in March still, but it's with Scott Soder, and he's an illustrator, and I can't wait to have him on as well. So, but Lisa Glanz, the part 2, we will get Lisa Quine scheduled for her part 2 so we can continue this conversation. And maybe we can, we're doing some live podcasting at Creative South, so maybe you can pop in the booth and we can get some more questions answered then too. Yeah. All right. Well, guys, if you want to volunteer, there's still a few volunteer tickets for Creative South. Just go to www.creativesouth.com and then /volunteers with an S, and then fill out the form. Then I'll send you a code. If there's left, it's $100 off your ticket, and you only have to give me 6 hours. Pretty much you're backstage helping people like Lisa, or you're pouring beer for people or checking IDs. I mean, that's a great job. And it's not like all 6 hours is in one swoop. It's just 2-hour segments, because I think it's a little too much if I asked you to do all 6. So Kim will be pouring beer on Friday night. Maybe you guys can pour wine or beer. That might be more of your thing. So, or checking IDs, that'd be super helpful. But that's what I'm looking for. It's $100 off your ticket. So we'll see you hopefully at Creative South with me and Lisa. And then I'll see you with the other Lisa next Monday. All right, guys. Thanks so much.